Welcome back to the Georgia Show, or Bill, should I call it the Georgia Global Anti-Deep State Everywhere Doing Everything Show? But
I
that's
think I
kind
think I think we call it the Kick the Deep State's Butt show. How about that?
of excellent. So I am on the ground in Serbia, Belgrade, Serbia. I was just in Montenegro and Podgorica, and before that in Beirut, and we're really liaising and connecting the dots with a lot of Christian populations which are under siege in Europe and in Central Asia. And we're going to talk about that a lot today because President Trump is talking about it in Nigeria. So we'll dig into that. We are brought to you by Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com. Please follow our social media. It's really, really important. Sign up for our YouTube channel if you don't already subscribe, and also CDM1 on Rumble. We're on podcast everywhere, and a lot of new content on the Georgia Record. So please check it every day, and cdm.press for global content. But, you know, Bill, I was watching, we had a competitor of ours bring on Sally Grubbs in Georgia recently, and I was struck by everything's fine, Bill. There's no GOP corruption. There's no Ponzi scheme. There's no text being sent around about other GOP members. Everything's cool, man. What's that about, Bill? It's conservative ink, I guess.
Well, I think it is conservative ink, and you probably need to elucidate what that is. But the other thing is, this is we're going to talk about this. One of the tactics that sometimes you see used is simply ignore and talk about other issues. Talk about a different spin on the issues. And we've seen it with people that for, years have specifically said, gosh, there's really no direct evidence that the machines are a problem. And
Yeah.
yet you hear Tulsi Gabbard, you hear others clarifying that now declassified documents and things that they are hunting and finding show that they are a very direct source of many of the problems, and not just one or two, but perhaps many. And it is fascinating. But the fact that somebody ignores the problem is a flag. And, they don't realize, hey, I'm outing myself. I'm one of the problems here.
Everybody's watching. Everybody's
Yeah,
watching. And
yeah.
you got a lot of that. You got a lot of divides happening, a lot of, I guess, reveals happening everywhere. So I'm at a cafe, so you'll have to ignore the noise, but we'll just roll with it. So I also want to bring up, you got to sign up for our no ad subscriptions. We're having a lot of success here. I had some out of Georgia last night sign up. I really appreciate that. You know who you are. My.cdm.press. That's my.cdm.press. And you will get access to all of our sites. It supports our journalism, our global journalism, because we can count on revenue coming in every month. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. Most people just pay the $100 and get it out of the way, and then it hits them again next year. But it's been really good support for us, and thank you for all those. And it's really popular because people don't like ads, but we have to serve ads. So if you don't want to see the ads, pay us $10 a month at my.cdm.press. Bill, what do we got on the show today?
Gosh, we've got stuff in a number of different areas. There's things happening in Georgia that, if you're watching carefully, and one of our call signs is to make sure you're looking at the right people. We're going to show you some stuff going on that hints at things here in Georgia. We're going to show some stuff that's going on internationally, especially with some of the movement around Venezuela potentially, and Puerto Rico and others. You're going to talk about Nicaragua and this fight in some ways against Christians, and it's not just
Nigeria.
Nigeria, pardon me.
Yeah.
And it's not just there, but it is indicative of things happening around the world. Now we're going to go back, and we're going to show one of the people that's trying to, oh gosh, there's nothing here. I'll just pretend that there's nothing wrong. And we'll get into some other stuff, even locally here in Georgia, where we'll show people trying to respin facts. And yet, with the help of good people, we have the receipts right with us and a big sheaf of them. So there's where we're going for today.
Bill, I was laughing because I saw an image, a Halloween image, and it was a turtle, and somebody had strapped a cannon on the back of the turtle, and it was just, walking like this, like a tank. And I'm like, that's kind of us, man. We're the turtle with the tortoise. We're steady. We're credible. We don't make crap up, and we are relentless, and we keep bringing truth over and over and over again, and it's really working. And I really appreciate your efforts on all that. Let's get into it as
All right.
talking about that.
Well, before we move on from that, let me clarify that we're building on information, but a lot of it's coming from the people of Georgia.
Yeah.
And got to pass credit to them because they've been in this fight. They know who they are, and they have been in this fight for 5 years or more as
Yeah.
well. And lots of the information that you're gonna, I think, hear about and already hearing about and will hear about is coming from them. So, all right, let's start there, as a matter of fact. So one of the people that we've recommended folks keep their eyeballs on is Ed Martin, who is Deputy Attorney General, and he posted some very interesting things, kind of, kind of like many others that have been off the radar, but all of a sudden, I'm suggesting they do. Here's something he posted in the last couple of days. He had posted a picture of him with Robert Fulton some days ago. I think it was last show or perhaps the one before that we talked about. And in this, he's once again calling out the capabilities, the focus, if you will, of Robert Fulton. Here's what it reads at the top. Robert Fulton was a brilliant engineer who harnessed steam so American maritime could ignore the shifting winds, point the bow straight to the destination, and go. Find that a fascinating quote. And it has a backup directly from one of the favorite, if you will. Bear with me for a moment. One of our favorite election integrity experts, Kevin Moncla. And here's what he has to say. Let me pull this back over so I can get it for you. We're picking up what you're laying down, Mr. Martin. Fulton is still blowing hot air, so please point Lady Justice straight to the building holding the 2020 records. I suspect that when the expletive goes down, ship goes down, there won't be anyone willing to go down with it. And we wonder if that's the case. We don't know. I found this so interesting that I just had to post a backup, and bear with me for a second. I hadn't planned to show this, but I will. I saw this from Kevin Moncla, and we posted this follow-up. So when it's time for the ship to go, I trust Ed Martin's going to make it go. So there you have it. And he is on board, pictured on board one of Robert Fulton's infamous steamships. So interesting times. All right. So Ed Martin also posted this, which is a hit on what he is calling a narco-terrorist boat. And this is similar to what we've seen in the last few days, where boats coming out of reportedly Venezuela that they are terming transportation boats for drugs and other things are being targeted and taken care of. Let's just watch this. We call that a bomba surprise. I'll take a line from one of the 007 movies. So at least we won't have to be worried about those persons, whoever they may be. So let's see. With that, President Trump has talked about another issue that I want to make sure we begin with. And that is this. If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns ablazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing the Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast. I know you have comments on this, so let me, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you for your insights on what you were hearing and learning about this fight.
Sure. Well, of course, we've been all over the world recently, multiple times, meeting with representatives and trying to highlight Christian persecution in multiple countries, including Nigeria. And we had a a person on the show, on the skiff, multiple times. Her name is Danielle Rhodes, and she's on the board of a charity in Nigeria called marycare.org. And essentially, they are bringing microloans to different Christian businesses. And she called me a couple weeks ago, and she said, "I need help. Who do you know with your, knowledge of the special operations community that could get into Nigeria and help protect some of these people because they're being slaughtered?" And so we've been working in that kind of behind the scenes. And I'm really thankful for President Trump for his comments. But I want to play a little bit of Danielle here on the interview we had recently on the skiff, and you can listen to her own words. We could debate that, but is it mostly Islam that's going after the Christians in Nigeria? Is that where the violence is coming from?
It's only them. I mean, at least that's the reporting that I'm getting from the ground. There's the idea that it's herdsmen and they're just trying to find farmland. And that's really just a ruse. I mean, at least in the environments that I have direct contact with, I don't know everything that's gone on in the north, for instance. I only have so much bandwidth to pay attention to so much, just like everybody else, we've got lots of things to focus on, but I've tried to pay as close attention as I can. And plus it's easy for me because I get these reports directly, right? So I spoke to you, I think back in, I don't remember when it was, maybe July or something like that.
Yeah, I watched that interview this morning, and I want to get an update, but keep going.
Yeah, well, we did after that, we did, decide, okay, we're going to up our security, and we were able to, establish a better way to secure the property and the people in the facility, in the surrounding area. But that only goes so far. If they come in with, if they outnumber you, which is what happens, they come in, they have, assault. They have machine guns is what they really have. So they come in and they, last time I talked to you, they were intentionally using machetes and attacking children and women. And I think that is to, really to instill terror. So
it's terror.
It's just a terrorist movement, it's jihadis. And, this is what they believe. They really believe this just as much as I believe in Christianity. They believe that the way to get to, to be victorious is to convert or to destroy.
Yeah.
That is what they're taught from very young age.
Yeah.
So, I didn't quite pull that thread, but, I'm very suspicious about not suspicious. I guess I hope that the peace deal really happens, but when you're dealing with people who really believe in their soul, and I don't know what the answer is for this, but they really believe that if they don't do this, they are not going to get to their version of heaven. And so, they're not going to stop.
Right.
It'll be, I hope this works. I really do.
You mean in Gaza?
In Gaza, yes. And then, of course, the idea, as I said, they say this all the time. Well, it starts with the Jews. The Jews are the, canary in the coal mine. And these are all nice little adages. But look at Nigeria. This is not a hypothesis. This isn't a question mark. This is what's happening on the ground. Do
you have any idea of how many Christians have been killed, estimate, in Nigeria?
I don't know recently, but I know 60,000 Christians have been killed, I think, over the last, I'm not sure how many years, I think 5. But this year, it's been at least 1,000. I could just add up in my head the reports that I've gotten, there were 250. I try not to, maybe we should do that. Maybe, you think back to COVID and they had the moniker up of, number of deaths. Maybe we should create something like that to bring attention and awareness.
Highlight it. Yeah.
Yes, every day. But, to me, that felt so stressful and scary. And I don't want to do that to people. I felt like that was kind of something that was inflicted on us. And I don't want to.
So I just wanted to play a little bit of that, Bill, and you can find that interview on the Skiff or on our Rumble or YouTube channel. We've done multiple interviews with Danielle, but I just I just got a text from a source in Armenia, and I want to bring this story up. Stand by 1 second. We have been early on Armenia. I was there several months ago, and we've been reporting consistently on what's going on there. This is the Financial Times of London over the weekend. In God's name, what is going on in Armenia? So again, we're very early there. They're going after the church. They're putting at least 24 priests in jail, beating them. I just got text just now. They arrested the Catholicus's brother and brother's son, obviously to pressure the head of the church. The Catholicus is the head of the church, like the Pope in Armenia. So we're supporting. This guy was in the White House. Pashinyan is a globalist. He was sitting there with President Trump and Azeri President Aliyev, shaking hands and backslapping, and everything's cool. I understand, and we reported Donald Trump Jr. is going there soon, in a week or so. I hope he pressures this guy to lay off the church. Same with Zelensky. Stop stealing churches, burning churches, beating priests. I played a video on my show the other day on the Skiff of Zelensky's thugs breaking into a monastery with chainsaws, sawing down the doors, attacking and beating the priests. I mean, if this isn't satanic, I don't know what is. So I just wanted to bring all that up. This is all related. Nigeria fits right into that. But back to you, Bill. I'll mute my mic because I love kids, but I got a packle of them playing around me right now. So back.
But before you go, I do have one question. What are they, when they take these actions against priests and so forth, what are they charging, or are they simply not making comment?
Well, they are, for instance, there was a, look, the church is an impediment to state control and satanic control and the matrix, cabal, deep state, whatever you want to call it, Davos control. So they have to get rid of the church because Christians believe in something higher. They don't believe in the state. So this is why it's being attacked all over the world. There's various charges. The classic one is, Russia, which we've seen that in the U.S. The second one is that they will leak tapes, and the last one was they found to be an AI tape of a priest having sex with a woman. Obviously, that's banned for a priest. But it's corruption charges, the same old stuff. But they're literally trying to take over the Vatican of the church Echmiadzin in Armenia, which is it's been there. The first Christian cathedral ever is there. I reported from there on the Georgia show several months back. So the spear that stuck Christ, he's on the cross, is there. I mean, this is the origins of Christianity. They're going after it. And in Lebanon, I met with the head of one of the largest parties Christian parties in Lebanon last week, and he said, "Look, this is the roots of Christianity. Jesus Christ walked among us here, and we have to save for future generations the people that are descended from that original church." And so, I hope that answers your question.
I think it does. Thank you. So, one of the things that we should make comment on is the reaction to Trump's statement regarding Nigeria, and it's actually quite supportive. Many people are posting things saying they appreciate Trump's stance. They are saying this is necessary. We need to be prepared to take action, or certainly put eyeballs on what's going on. I have some videos. I'm gonna defer them for the moment, but this woman makes such a statement. This person, Nikki, I believe it's Minaj. I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's a rapper, and she came out and basically said the same thing. This is necessary. Thank you for delving into it. And most notably, Pete Hegseth is supportive of this. And, yes, sir, the killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and anywhere must end immediately. The Department of War is preparing for action. And very interestingly, there's then this post where he leads a group of military in the Lord's Prayer. Let's take a look at this.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Very interesting. Okay.
Bill, while you're on that subject, I want to play something. I may have done it before, I don't remember, but when I was in Beirut last time, I met with some nuns who were in hiding from Syria. Their entire villages had been destroyed and killed. And one of the women, a young woman, maybe 25, she's from a village that's the last village in Syria, in the world, to speak Aramaic, which is the language of Christ. And she told me, I want to record the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic for you. And so she did. And I want to play that because it's extremely interesting. Here we go.
باسم الأب والابن والروح القدس إله أحد آمين. أوبفتي بشمو يتكتش اسمخ يثالي ملكخ يبتت بعائلة أخمر بشمو خدت على رعا أبلاح لحمة أخو اليوم واغفر لاح اختيوثح أخمل ما أنا حنغفرن شي مخت عمينح لا تعبرنا حتجور بيوثا بس حستلنا حمشيدا آمين.
Anyway, I thought that was appropriate.
It is very appropriate. Thank you for that. All right, moving on. We also have something forming, it appears, around Puerto Rico and maybe Venezuela. There has been a no-fly zone, a NOTAM notification, I believe is what it's referred to. And it involves a particular strip of airspace or airspaces near Puerto Rico. And it's very interesting. It is acknowledged in this that it is a DoD-associated security area. And I believe it goes from 2,500 to 5,000 feet. And we're not sure exactly what it's to be used for, but note that it points almost directly south from Puerto Rico, which is essentially the air direction going to Venezuela. And the other thing that I note is the time frame. It began yesterday, November 1st, and it lasts until March 31st, 2026. So this is not a short-term thing. Now, some have reported this is associated with I believe what's called a hot pit refueling activity, which means aircraft coming in, leaving their engines running, and refueling, and then apparently taking off again. We don't know that that's exactly confirmed, but it is kind of notable. That would suggest that this is quite an active program when and if it were to begin. So I want to make sure people knew about that. You can find more and many statements up on X.com and others. The mainstream media seems to be leaving it a bit alone, at least in terms of facts. But I wanted to make sure people knew of it so they could do their own homework.
Let me throw this up real quick, Bill, on that issue.
Yep.
This is on armedforces.press. The 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, guys I used to work with, are been spotted offshore in that area coming in and out. So it's highly likely that's an ingress and egress route into, bases of operations there. It's probably a lot of aircraft coming in at different, all times of the day, and large amounts. We used to call them continent seizure packages, where you have 40, 50 helicopters coming in at once to air refuel or whatever. So I'll leave that alone. Back to you.
Okay. I did check before airtime just to see whether ADSB was showing any military aircraft in the area. It is completely vacant, according to ADSB, which normally tracks, including military aircraft, military and civilian. Doesn't show much of anything around that part of Puerto Rico, except commercial traffic at the moment at other altitudes. So kind of interesting. All right. Let's get into a bit. Well, first, before we do that, perhaps, did you want to take a break for a couple of our sponsors?
Let's support a few of our sponsors here. We'll be right back after this break.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
Back to you, my friend.
So a quick reminder that in the past weeks, months now really, we've heard from Tulsi Gabbard and others that evidence has been found that shows that the Russian hoax, if you will, the Russian collusion is all a created narrative to try to unseat Trump or at least diminish his power beginning as early as immediately following the 2016 election. And she reported that in findings months ago, and others have echoed that. And recall the names involved: Comey from the FBI, Bolton, Brennan, and others. And now comes information that goes back to where we started the show, which is one of the tactics that you'll see these people use is they try to ignore or respin or redirect the problem and make it try to look like something completely different. Let's quickly refer back to what Tulsi Gabbard said, and also one of your good friends in talking about Brennan and others' participation.
The John Brennans, Adam Schiffs, and the oligarchs in big tech who are trying to undermine our constitutionally protected rights and turn our country into a police state with KGB-style surveillance are also domestic enemies and much more powerful and therefore dangerous than the mob that stormed the Capitol. Now, John Brennan said,
So I know looking forward that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of the country and they gain strength, and it brings together an unholy alliance frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians.
now, President Biden, I call upon you and all members of Congress from both parties to denounce these efforts by the likes of Brennan and others to take away our civil liberties that are endowed to us by our Creator and guaranteed in our Constitution.
Note that that goes back all the way to the Biden administration era, and so the findings that have come out since are even more poignant. Now, here's some comments from Roger Stone that align with the problem that we're seeing with Brennan.
Here is when you fabricate crimes and seek to destroy people's lives over them. I think what we're seeing today is justice, actual application of the law. But I warn you, we have a deeply embedded bureaucracy inside DOJ, inside the national security apparatus, and they are resisting this effort to bring people to justice. For example, this New York Times story that says that the prosecution of John Brennan is hampered because Tulsi Gabbard fired 37 deep state apparatchiks from the national security staff is completely and totally false. They have everything they need in declassified documents. They do not need the cooperation of any of those people who were fired to prosecute John Brennan. That story is planted by those deep in the bowels of the CIA, and it's false.
Yeah.
Now, people are starting to get the picture here. And then remarkably, Folks are going direct to Brennan and asking him very direct questions. Watch this.
Just trying to get you to clear it up. If you saw the dossier before the election.
Read my memoir.
I've read excerpts of it. But
read the rest of it.
Are you concerned about a possible indictment coming from DOJ? What do you think about the situation now? Anything you could say, sir. Just want to clear the record, give you a chance to talk. But did you see it, the Steele dossier, or not? That's pretty much the gist of the situation, right? You have nothing to say, sir, about it?
It's all on the record. It's all in my memoir.
This is what we like to call an awkward silence when somebody asks a very direct question of one of these people. Watch this interaction when he is both confronted while on stage and then afterwards with, again, questions about his conduct, what he knew, when he knew it.
Presented that. We never said it was disinformation. We said it was Russian influence operations, which is what they do. There's a big difference between influence operations. No, you don't know that. Yes, you don't know. Comey knew.
The literature said it had all the hallmarks.
I don't know who put you up to this.
Nobody put me up to this, sir. I'm here on my own.
I don't know what role you played or who you are, but it's a bunch of bullshit that you just passed on.
That's assault. That's assault, Bill.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Watch this for a second at the very end here. I want you to look at the date. This is not old. This is the 30th of October, 2025. This is, 2 days ago. He is trying to, again, say, oh, no, this was all Russian influencing and so forth. We have seen the reports from Tulsi Gabbard and others that show that that's not true. Yet he's still trying to pitch this. It is astounding to me that someone would try to do this. He is not able to walk down the street without getting confronted with this stuff. And
which is the way it should be.
Exactly the way it should be. Now, think about this. Failing to answer the question. When you do answer the question, you try to respin it. Where have we seen this? And it goes back to some of your original questions. We've seen this right here in Georgia. Why is nobody, when we ask the question, why is nobody reacting to Colton Moore finding illegals being trafficked through Hartsfield? Deafening silence. Why is this Ponzi scheme being allowed to fester and people that clearly have been involved in it by name in documents and in reports that were playing a role in the organization that did this being allowed to retain leadership spots in the Georgia GOP? No answers. Oh, we need to let this play out. Really? Do we?
We need to unify.
Don't get me started. So you see the problem and you see the parallels when we watch this play out. It's amazing. But these people, one of the tactics appears to be, well, let me just pretend that there's nothing there and hopefully it'll go away. Well, we're not going to let it go away. Let me see where we stand now. Okay, one last thing, and then we're going to bring in our guest. There is there's some polling out now in Georgia regarding the Senate race, and I wanted to share this. This actually is not one of our favorite polling places, but we'll go ahead and report it. It's from the AJC. And it shows that these candidates, Buddy Carter, Mike Collins, and Derek Dooley, are in about these slots, according to the AJC. Buddy Carter, 20%, Mike Collins, 30%, Derek Dooley, 12%. We were flabbergasted to then see this, which is this organization that calls themselves America First Tea Party, led by Debbie Dooley, saying that, they're going to support and push Derek Dooley. Now that's no relationship as far as I can tell, and as far as has been reported, no relationship to Debbie Dooley. So we'll take that off the table. But isn't that remarkable? Derek Dooley, who's never been to our findings, has never been noted to make any statement with regard to supporting Trump through the last 3 elections, hasn't registered as a Republican. We don't think he's voted. He's avoided all of this, and all of a sudden, Brian Kemp pushes him forward as, he's the candidate that we need. And who supports him? Debbie Dooley. Debbie Dooley, who we've outed a number of times with regard to the Tea Party Patriots Foundation and other organizations that she's worked with. And here is one of her key quotes. This comes from the AJC. They republished this from a tweet that Dooley put out back in 2018, I believe. He, meaning Trump, lied to voters to get elected. Is this a person you're going to trust with their view of who's the right candidate for Senate? Don't know, but seems odd. Okay. With that, we are ready to bring in our special guest. Shall we do that? You with me, Todd?
Sorry, I had the mic muted because of the kids.
That's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. All right. Mr. Hank Sullivan is going to join us. Let me take this down for just a moment. Hank, thank you so much again for making time today.
Thought I'd give you one of those awkward silences.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The good lines are mine now. Come on.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Good.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you for the chuckle.
Always start off with a joke, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Beautiful. So I
That's
wanted
what
to
they
bring you
say.
back on for several reasons. One is you had reported what's going on in Forsyth County with regard to these grandfathering ordinance changes that have been orchestrated. And yet, remarkably, you got charged with putting out disinformation. And I thought, how bizarre. I mean, most people know that Hank's background, he's published information, not just on the county, but on the state and in some cases beyond for years. Always, as far as I can tell, always brings the documents and the videos and everything else to show what's really going on. So I wanted to get your latest read on the feedback that you've gotten in these last, week and a half since you published the findings in Forsyth County.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. This case is really most interesting because rarely, if ever, really, have I been able to get any response out of the county commissioners. But this week, they're feeling the heat. They are really feeling the heat. I think one of the larger area Forsyth County Facebook community pages put out a poll asking a question about how they're feeling about our county commission, and it came in so bad that our county commissioners are feeling such heat on this that they decided that they were going to answer me. And so when that happens, somebody answers in writing, it's like they're playing on my home field. So I welcome that. I'm glad that if they want to answer and put it in writing, I think that's great. I'm glad for them to do that. But it raises one big question, and you alluded to that a few minutes ago when you said, okay, what did they know and when did they know it? Okay, so let me put this in context. So the way that they're describing this bill, this ordinance or ordinance provisions in here, it appears that they had no idea what they were voting for. So what did they know? I don't think they knew it at all. I don't think they knew what they were voting for at all. So when did they know that? I still don't think that they know what they voted on because their words indicate complete ignorance of what these ordinance provisions were actually about. But it's really striking that they would put all of this in writing because our county attorney, I mean, he's just doing what he's told to do. He told them exactly what this ordinance is about. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, you're coming in and out on my screen. I don't know. So to the commissioners, he said the law, and we can talk about what that law is, because it's not a general law in the state of Georgia. It's a few court cases. Says that a government has the opportunity to phase out legal, non-conforming grandfathered uses over what's called a reasonable period of time. You, the commissioners, tasked me, Ken Gerard, the attorney, to come up with some language that might begin to peel back some of the legal, non-conforming uses that we have in the county. There, in a nutshell, he told them exactly what this ordinance is all about. It's about peeling back the some of the legal non-conforming uses that we have in the county. In other words, if you have a legal non-conforming or grandfathered business.
Well, that'll probably be good because he was cutting out. So
whoops. All right. Well, while he's off, go ahead and if you can hear me, go ahead and rejoin, please, Hank. While he's doing that, I'm gonna put up something. Now, here's the there we go, Hank. I'm gonna weigh in on something to give you a chance to get your thing stabilized. All right. So here is the actual Substack that Hank published, and it talks about a new set of ordinance rules, if you will, that allow the county to issue a citation to a business that might have been there for 100 years doing the same kind of business. Except now, if they so choose, they can issue this, and the company has essentially 18 months to prove that they're not violating something in the way that the citation suggests. Now, what's interesting to me is that Hank has gotten so much pushback directly from especially 3 members of the county commission. And we're at the point where we're going to name them so we know who we're dealing with. Chairman is Alfred John. Mr. John posted this, and he starts with, there has been a lot of disinformation on social media about county government shutting down businesses because they were grandfathered in with an older use that is no longer in compliance. An older use that's no longer in compliance. The whole notion of grandfathering means that if they were there and they were using the land for a legal purpose, grandfathering is supposed to allow them to continue to do that. Disinformation, I want you to remember these words. Disinformation is defined as false information spread deliberately to deceive people for political or economic gain. And what is being shared on social media is disinformation. This is his charge. He goes on to talk about the fact that the county already has a process where code enforcements and complaints from residents and others can be submitted, and our code enforcement personnel have to take action. Usually it's a conversation. Sometimes they end up taking somebody to court. So there's been a process for decades to deal with somebody using land for a purpose that's not in alignment with zoning. Yet this grandfathering has protected people because clearly it's unfair to have somebody that's been using this property for a particular purpose for could be decades, might be about 100 years, and then and then all of a sudden something changes and they're forced to give up their property or sell it or move or something else. Watch this. He then goes on, astoundingly, to suggest that in this statement, Hank Sullivan will have you believe that anarchy is best for the county and that no rules should apply. Is that what Hank is suggesting? Well, remember, Mr. Johns just got through telling you there's already processes in place. There's already processes that have been in place for decades to deal with such things if they need to be dealt with. And yet he's turning around. And what did we just get through talking about a few minutes ago? Change the narrative, change the direction of the conversation. All of a sudden, he's trying to say that now Hank Sullivan in his questioning of this would lead to anarchy. Holy mackerel. Okay.
Well, those are criminal things he's talking about in that text. There's plenty of laws on the books that you can't commit crimes on your property, right?
Right.
I mean, yes. I mean, that's just a non sequitur there. It doesn't even make sense.
Right. And he tries to make it, you can see it at the bottom. He tries to talk about a package store selling to minors. There's already laws against these things.
Yeah,
this has
crime.
Nothing to do with what Hank is.
Hank is like doing like this. He wants back in.
I know. I'm bringing you in, Hank. I just needed, I live here in Forsyth County, and I take personal umbrage with something like this because anybody with a thinking brain can read this and go, what? He just got through saying they have processes to take care of certain violations if they need to be. And yet all of a sudden, this new thing has been enacted. Okay. All right, Hank, you're back in. I'm going to take a deep
Sorry
breath
about
for a minute.
that, but I'm
No,
glad
that's
you're able
fine.
to get all that out. So what they've done, all three of them, well, I'll say three of them being Alfred John, Chairman, Commissioner Laura Simonson, Commissioner Mindy Moore, they've all come out with these public statements this week. And each one of them are tying the code infraction into something that is not written into the code. For example, Laura Simonson says businesses who continuously violate our county or state codes, those are the ones here that are subject to having their land uses terminated. According to Alfred John, it's serial offenders who continue to ignore the ordinance or the law. Again, that's got nothing to do with anything that Ken Gerard wrote and put in and that they voted for and enacted. And according to Mindy Moore, this is only about bad actors. So this has nothing to do with what has been codified in a way to be able to legally, lawfully, at least set up a process to terminate these land rights. And I cautioned people last week, and I will re-caution people again and remind them what I said. Law should never be judged by what a lawmaker says. That only makes common sense these days. But rather by the authorities the laws convey. Look at the law, read the law. What does the law give them authority to do? Because whatever the law gives them the authority to do is the way that law is going to be used. It's not going to be used by some kind of a sugar-coated explanation of why they did something and the way that they're going to administer the law. No, that's not what this is at all. So they are now circling the wagons. We have 3 county commissioners here that are circling the wagons. They see that this is not popular. The people don't want their family businesses or businesses that they've been going to for years and years and years to all of a sudden be terminated so that they can bring in a different kind of a land use that might bring in more money or whatever it might be. That's not what the people of Forsyth County want. They want a righteous land use policy. Just get this. Land use, if you have a grandfathered property, they mean for it to decay and fall into ruin because they will not give you a building permit to improve the property because your property is non-compliant with the present zoning. That's not right. That's not right for a business that's been there for decades that needs some improvements, not to be able to make those improvements. That is not right at all. But that's the way that this reads.
Hank, let me share something that you alluded to earlier. You talked about it earlier, but I want to make sure people can hear this. Sometimes you just have to listen carefully to everybody's comments and you'll find the reality underneath things. Let me bring this up. This is a hearing wherein the actual attorney of Forsyth clarified what he'd been working on and why. Let me go ahead and I'll play this.
The law, if it says one thing on this, is it says that a government has an opportunity to phase out legal nonconforming or grandfather uses over what's called a, quote, reasonable period of time. So you are taking the courts at their word, and you tasked me to come up with some language that might begin to peel back some of these legal nonconforming uses that we have in the county.
Phase out. Phase out.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
It's exactly what he said. This is not about somebody,
that's of the code. That's exactly what the code intention is. I mean, I have no problems with Mr. Gerard saying what he said because he was just directed to do what he did, and he gave them the ordinance they asked for. But now they're portraying it to be completely different than what he told them what it was all about. And I think it's interesting that Commissioner Simonson, she said in her written remarks that I had mistakenly invoked the role of the planning director. In this case, his name is Tom Brown. In all of this, she says Tom Brown's got nothing to do with this. When Tom Brown or his successor, whoever's in that planning director position, that person is the key instrument in all of this because no one's land use is going to be terminated unless the planning director himself opines that the use is a primary use or a substantial ancillary use of the property. So that's got to come from Tom Brown. So what actually happened out here, Mr. Brown, and I don't even need to be using his name. It's just the planning director. What happened out here? Well, let's see. We have an ordinance that businesses need to turn their lights out at midnight, and they didn't turn the lights out. Does that constitute a primary use or a substantial ancillary use of the property with respect to the land use? Well, no. But let's talk about maybe some other things. So they moved. They're no longer parking cars here. They're parking cars over there. Is that a primary use or a substantial ancillary use of the property? Yes, it certainly is, because they were parking over here and now they're parking over there. So they're using the land differently. So you see, that can be looked at 100 different ways. You can interpret that to mean practically anything. And that's the way that this is written. It's actually, pretty ingenious that they created this ordinance with such nebulous wording that it can be interpreted any way that you want to interpret it. And if they are a substantial ancillary use or primary use, then they're going to get a notification that their property is going to revert to the new zoning in 18 months.
And that could force them to close, move, sell the property, or all three, right?
Well, it's actually going to cause a lot of lawsuits because nobody's going to put up with that. And if they tried to close down a business been in operation for 50 years, whatever it might be, because of something like that, then yeah, it's just going to end up in court and it's going to go forever and ever and ever. And the taxpayers of the county are going to have to pay to defend or sue another taxpayer in the county, and that's just not a good use of taxpayers' funds.
Yeah. Hey, Hank, let me ask you that, nothing happens at the local level anymore that's not coordinated nationally.
Oops, we lost him again.
Oh, I was going to say, Bill, that nothing ever happens, locally that's not coordinated nationally. We've seen that with Indivisible and everything else. And we had the Chevron decision, which kind of pulled away the ability of government to come in and bureaucratically change, your life. Maybe they're trying to drive this down to the local level. I mean, what do you think?
The question, Hank, was, is this a broader agenda than just Forsyth County? Because it seems to be in alignment with some things we're starting to see around other parts of the country.
I think it's just a general characteristic of government. The government is going to keep trying to claim more and more and more authority and control over the people that are governed, and that's universal. I don't care where you're going. That's what happens in Forsyth County. It happens north of us, south of us, in different states, and I think it's just the way that government goes. One of the things I say in the new article, which incidentally is entitled "Commissioners Circle Wagons to Sugarcoat Grandfather Gate Zoning Ordinance Debacle." One of the points I'm making here is I have to kind of pause because I want to make this point, cement it home to the people that are reading this, that think about this. These commissioners, they are their neighbors. They are the people that live down the street from them. They're the folks that, given a modicum of authority, are trying to put business owners that also live down the street out of business. Now, think about that. Who would do this? This is a county. We're all friends here. We know each other here. The people doing this just live over in the other neighborhood. So why are we I think we have to rethink the very purpose of local government here. It's not so we can come up with some perfect land use for that somebody from another state or Ohio State University Department of Urban Planning comes down here and decides that, oh gosh, we can do this here, we can do this here, and everything. By the time we get done with this, it's going to be a perfect land use plan. No, we need local people that are looking at this historically and go, well, how do we want this to develop here? Well, I remember Uncle Joe's farm was over there, and it's still farmland over there. Maybe I know it's going to be a subdivision someday, but how can we enhance that and make that into an historically representative new development of what Uncle Joe had over there? That's really what the people in this county want. They don't want to be told that their land use is no longer relevant to this grand scheme that they've been working on for 3 decades down at the county administration building.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that there'd been a poll to determine residents' feeling and confidence in the decision-making of the county commission. Let's take a look at this. This is from, I believe that's the group name at the top, isn't it? Forsyth County Community Views?
Yes, Forsyth County Community Views. Yes.
And it's been assembled by an independent group. They're not us, they're not you. But one of the questions is, do you trust the current members of the BOC, Board of Commissioners, are working for the people of Forsyth as they were elected to do? I think it's fairly telling, at least in this particular survey. Yes got 6%, no got 93%, and there's 1% down at sometimes.
Yeah.
So, you could make the argument, well, with a bigger sample, I think this was 300 or 400 people that responded to this. But if you, even with a bigger sample, 300 is still statistically significant, believe it or not. If you look at many of the things that political things do from the AJC and others, they'll sample hundreds, sometimes low 1,000. But 93% is fairly telling. I wonder what it would be if we got, half the county to respond to this, especially when you look at all the stuff that's been built in the last few years that people have objected to, the multifamily housing going up all over Forsyth, when in other counties doesn't seem to have been done that way. So back to you, Hank. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know what it would be if you looked at this county-wide. I know that people down in the south part of the county look at things differently than the people in the north side of the county. And I kind of live in the middle, but District 1 is predominantly on the northwestern quadrant of Forsyth County. Is probably the most conservative area of Forsyth County. That's why they need somebody who's probably the most conservative person that they can imagine to help represent them and protect their interests down at I guess that, well, I'm not even going to say that, in the county commission. So I don't know how that would go. I don't know what the spread of residences are in that sample. I just know that when you look at 93% of the people that are against the county commission's views on things and their actions, that is a significant figure. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I received the responses that I did. They are feeling the heat. These 3 are feeling the heat. And I said that they were circling the wagons. And let me say, the imagery of that is that you're circling the wagons because you're creating a fortification. Well, what's in the middle of that fortification? I'll tell you exactly what's in the middle of that fortification, and that is District 1 Commissioner Carrie Hill. She hasn't said a word about any of this. Carrie Hill is right in the middle of the wagons, and then she's got Alfred John and Laura Simonson and Mindy Moore, and they are all the ones that are taking the heat, and they're the ones that are trying to dish it back out, but they're not being very successful. But I want everybody to know that what they're trying to do is protect their standing on the board and their percentages of ownership of the Forsyth County Commission. They own that Forsyth County Commission because they're all acting as a block. You cannot defeat them in anything that they try to do because they're acting as a block. And Carrie Hill, who is my opponent, she's the incumbent, and she simply votes with them. And I hear from people all over the district that she doesn't answer their phone calls. She never gets back in touch with people. They have questions to ask her, and she never gets back with them. Well, I will say this for myself. When you read this Substack, which will be going out about 6:30 tonight, I will deal with every single allegation, every single point that all of these 3 commissioners make at me. I don't leave anything out. And that is the way that I am. That is my personality. And so if I'm in that position and you have a question, you have a concern, if there's something that you don't like that I did, I'm not perfect, but I will answer you. you will get an answer. If you want to speak to me, I will speak to you. I will meet you. Well, that's not the kind of representation that people have these days, and it's probably universal everywhere. But I'm not that kind of person. The kind of person I am is what I write. When you read what I write, you know who I am.
So that brings up two important points. One is people are going to get a chance to meet you and hear from you in the coming, 10 days. Let me bring this up. So there's a meet and greet that is scheduled for November 10th, which is a week from Monday. And so you can get more information on that at the website that you've put up, right, Hank, at votehanksullivan.com.
votehanksullivan.com. On my Substack, I have put that invitation out to people on my Substack, and it is on my Facebook page, both Hank Sullivan page and the Hank Sullivan for County Commission Facebook page as well. And yes, I'm looking for a big turnout there. I would love to meet the more and more people of Forsyth County, because people of Forsyth County have got to reclaim their county government. It is over the past several decades, really, it has become onerous. It has become tyrannical, in my opinion, and it's time for the people to take their government back.
Yep. Now, I've made some statements specifically around the chairman, Alfred Johns. I would invite Alfred to join us on one of the future shows. We'll be fair. We will have direct questions, but we will allow him to answer those. And I think that's a fair position for us to take. And very frankly, I think it would be beneficial to hear what those answers might be if you're living in Forsyth or even in other counties, just in case this same kind of thing begins to crop its head elsewhere. So we'll open that invitation to Chairman Johns. Hank, any last thoughts?
I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you guys. I always enjoy it. So
you bet. I know your signal's been your signal's been a little wonky today, Hank. Sorry about that. Todd, any last thoughts for you?
Yeah,
I'll be on. Well, thanks for coming on, Hank. It's fantastic stuff. I'll be on tomorrow, 10 a.m., 10 to noon. We're going to have 2 vessels from South Africa on to get an update on the Christian persecution there and tie it to Nigeria, which we talked about tonight. A few words on our sponsors, mypillow.com. Go there for Christmas gifts. Don't go to the big box retailers. Use promo code CDM. The Wellness Company, you saw that. Another great thing. You need to be protecting your family in case the new pandemic comes. Spend some time on their website, twc.health/CDM. Use promo code CDM. And take care of David Cross. If you have a financial issue, give him a call. He's the guy. That's all I got, Bill.
All right. Thanks for everybody being here. We will see you next time.